What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. And I'm going to touch on somebody and something that I haven't spoken on, which is American Cholo and this whole incident with No Jumper and Adam 22 and whatnot. So, for one, I'm not too familiar with American Cholo. When I first came on YouTube a year ago, there was a lot of chatter about him, and it wasn't particularly positive, to be honest. And so I didn't really pay attention, and he had some issue with some other Northern California channels, and I saw little clips here and there, and not from a place of, oh, I don't like the guy or I don't like his content, but I just sort of never really engaged with it. And then as time has gone on, I've heard some people talk about him who are people that I respect, right? And so I've found it interesting, you know. Then this whole thing happens with No Jumper, and if you've been living under a rock for some reason and you just now opened up YouTube for the first time, the quick breakdown is, American Cholo had pushed the issue regarding the Tyga video, right? The video that Tyga did, Ay Caramba, that mocked Raza and Mexicans in particular in a whole host of ways. I actually think that Dubs was one of the first people to push that, as far as I know, right? In terms of the content that I consume, I heard it first from Dubs, a channel from Southern California. But American Cholo has a huge platform, right? Like infinitely larger, and so it makes sense that when he pushed it, it got attention, and I'm glad that he pushed it. I have views on that video. I haven't done a spiel on that either because I feel like a lot of times current events happen and a lot of people come out with content really quick, and it's great. I consume that content, but a lot of times it says what I would want to say, so then I don't do a video because what I would say is already out there if you watch other channels, right? Um, and that's why I'm probably the last one to speak on this situation with American Cholo out of any other YouTube channel. But I've been keeping up, and so there's an interest there now. So anyways, he speaks up about the Tiger thing. Soon after, I think it might be the next day, clips surface of him pushed by the No Jumper podcast platform, right? That show snippets, like literally a couple words from American Cholo, right? Gil is his name, but American Cholo out of North Hollywood, that he's making, he's saying things that are at minimum racially insensitive, right? He talks about ghetto coon when talking about Tariq Nasheed, though that context is not in the clip. And then he uses the N word with a hard ER, also in a separate clip, without the context. And so I've heard his explanation of it. I would encourage you to go look it up if you haven't seen it. I'm not gonna repeat it all here and waste your time, but his explanations make sense to me. I also watched when Snow the Product and Gil had talked together on her live. I'm a huge fan of Snow the Product. I've met her several times. She's actually from San Jose. Her family is big in music, and she was big in music long before she became a rapper. And I was actually watching the Rojo Room, viewing the community page when I seen, oh, Snow the Product went at Gil, and so that's what made me go watch that. And I agree with and support a lot of what Snow said as well in terms of the generational difference, in terms of even repeating the N word with the hard ER, whether you're quoting somebody or not, just doesn't sit right, right? And how she said, man, I would never do that. I agree. I that would not sit right with my spirit to say that. From what I've seen on No Jumper, though, on when American Cholo visited recently, I think Gil gets that. And he had said, hey, you know what? I'm still learning. That was some years ago. It, regardless, the context was not a racist one. And the way he explains it, I 100% agree, or I believe. But that, yeah, I could have said that different. And that's true. this social media stuff, this YouTube stuff, I've been caught up in stuff before. Most people that have channels have been caught up in stuff before, and I'm nowhere near the attention level of American Cholo, right? So, which is another reason that I don't necessarily make videos about every hot topic, because I don't want folks to be like, "Oh, you're clout chasing, talking about other people." It's I got my own stuff to talk about, right? And I talk about stuff that interests me and that I think fits in the Homie Hangout platform. But so there's that. Um, and there's other clips of Gil saying things that are racially insensitive at minimum. And I don't know the context of all of those. Like I said, I'm not a huge consumer of American Cholo's content. And so I don't want to express an opinion on things that I haven't seen the totality of, right? That's kind of how this whole thing got started anyways. And it's just not a wise move. But I will say that I don't think, for whatever it's worth, that Gil is a racist person against Black people. And part of that is Nate Dogg 916, which is another channel that I follow, and that's my homeboy, right? Like, we're cool offline as well. He's a Black dude. He's out of Sacramento. He's done a lot of prison time, and he did a video that I saw where he was talking about Gil and talking about how American Cholo has been supportive of him and had offered resources to him and whatnot. And Hoodie from the Hood, which I don't know him, but that's another channel I watch, right? A Black dude from Southern California, and I like his content, right? He also had done a video about his interactions with Gil from American Cholo, or the American Cholo, and it's not that, oh well, a couple Black people said Gil's cool, therefore he can't be racist. That's not how it works. That's not how racism works. That's the, oh, look at my Black friend, or look at my brown friend, or look at my white friend, right? That shit don't mean nothing. Um, but in particular for Nate Dogg, I know him, and I know his integrity, and I know his character as an individual. And so I know that he would not come out and say something like that if it did not reflect his absolute experiences. And again, listening to the context of those clips, man, it doesn't sound to me like Gil is a racist. Uh, Gil's a shit starter, and Gil's a shit talker. And I've caught clips of him, like when the dude was tagging and he was like, "Man, I called the cops," and this and that. Like, Gil is judgmental and critical of certain types of behavior, it would seem, right? Certain types of behavior, as opposed to certain racial groups or certain ethnic groups. And that's fine. Would I call the cops if I seen somebody tagging? No, I don't call the cops for nothing. Uh, but it is what it is, and that is what many civilians would do. So I'm not saying that to put the dude down. That's his vibe. That's his vibe. I give him credit for being honest about it. Um, so the no jumper interview though, AD and Duno, and I'm not a big consumer of no jumper, uh, but AD and Duno, I think, handled themselves very well, and I think Gil and Bozo, the rapper from Southern California, handled themselves well. A quick note on Bozo: I wish, so I agreed with 99.9% of what he said, right? Um, I wish he would have taken it out of the Southsider context, and and maybe he intended to, and that's just the way I heard it, right? I don't know, but yes, there is a long history of Black and brown relations in neighborhoods in Southern California. Yes, there's a long history of violence between the two communities, particularly in Southern California. Don't be mistaken, right? Like, I'm from up north, and don't think that we don't have issues with Black folks sometimes up here too. It happens, but the storied legacy of Southern California is not mirrored up here. Um, and so I get that seemed to be foundational to what they were saying about the violence and about how people can get hurt and this and that. I also think that we're in an era where raza, period, and I'm not some spokesperson, right? But where Raza period is being more mindful of issues that directly impact the community and being more vocal about it, right? And no matter who's on the receiving end of that, of that critique or that challenge, and coming together around issues that affect brown people, right? Whether you're from north or south, and that's the way it should be. I would hope that we reach a day at some point soon where geography is irrelevant, where this norteño sureño, northern or southern stuff is irrelevant. And I know that there's a lot of effort being put in that direction from various corners, and that's great. We'll see how it goes. But so listening to Bozo, it seemed like he was talking as a Southsider, and he identifies as a Southsider. So I'm not faulting him. I'm just saying that it would have been nice if he had been more clear about, hey, I'm not just speaking for the South. I'm not just speaking for my homies, quote unquote, who are here or who live close to here or whatever, right? Like I'm speaking for Raza. And maybe he was hesitant to do that because that's a hell of a mantle to take up. I don't know many people. In fact, I don't know anybody arrogant enough to say that they are the voice for the brown community, right? Or for the Chicano community or the Mexican community. And so maybe that was his thing. I don't know. But the value of what he said was not lost by where he's from by any stretch. I appreciated it. And I liked Gil's words. I liked Gil's comments about how, look, man, this has real life impact, right? Um, I appreciated seeing the relationship between them and AD. I think AD got it, and I get the impression that AD got it right away. I think before that interview, because if you're from the neighborhood, then you understand what this looks like, and in the neighborhood, it's often about what something looks like as opposed to what something is, you know, and and that's how we make decisions, right? The hood is a predatory environment. The hood is a paranoid environment to some degree, right? The hood is a protective environment. And so there's a constant awareness of what threats may exist. And you need to make those judgments quickly in order to secure your community in whatever way you're trying to. And so I think there's a hardwired gift there, for lack of a better term. And I think AD got it. And I'm thankful AD and Bozo had that relationship so that this was able to happen in a responsible way. I'm mindful of Duno. Duno is new to the platforms, it seems, right? He's a younger guy. I think he's probably the youngest guy at the table. And and it was funny that he had an issue with Gil about some prior conversation they had. I don't know the context of that, but it was amusing to me how he kept bringing it up, right? I've had some youngsters and they do the same thing, like, damn fool, you really ain't let this go. Um, but I empathize with Duno where he's like, I'm the voice in this arena, right? And I'm trying to navigate it and figure it out. And I don't necessarily think about my boss, Adam 22, the way that he's being characterized, but I also don't like what's being said about American Cholo. And it seems AD was the same way. I think AD is more aggressive and more forceful. Um, and and I think that's he's been around a little bit longer. He's got a little more experience. He's a little bit older, so I would kind of expect that. I'm really disappointed in Adam 22, right? Maybe disappointed is not the right word because I don't know the dude, so I didn't have like real expectations of him for him to disappoint me. But his approach to this, I think, has been problematic and reminds me of what you see in the corporate environment. And so he had a video at the beginning where he apologized for not being able to be there. I don't fault him for that. It seems that this was a spur of the moment thing. He had a prior commitment. I get it, right? So I'm not judging the dude on that front. I know Duno, it seems, also had a prior commitment and he was able to set that to the side. Uh, but whatever it is, I don't fault Adam for not being there. I would have liked to have seen him there. I think it would have been important for him to be a part of the entire conversation. But his approach was, hey man, I got no problem with American Cholo. I got no problem, with Gil and these things were said and it's newsworthy, right? And the idea of being newsworthy is an issue because those who are gatekeepers, right? They decide what is newsworthy. And Adam 22 is a gatekeeper, is the gatekeeper, I would imagine, for No Jumper. So I'm going to assume that he has the ultimate say in what that platform does, what that people on the platform say, what direction it goes, right? That's his baby, right? To put it in a prison context, like if you got the keys to the yard, that group of people on that yard are yours. And you have a responsibility to look out for them, to provide for them, to be a steward of the resources that benefits the collective. And also what happens on that yard ultimately falls on your shoulders. And that's the way I operate. That's the way I see management being. And so in that regard, Adam 22 is responsible for everything that No Jumper does. That doesn't mean he's a part of every choice that every individual makes, right? Because you delegate, right? So if I have building security in building 5, I don't make the decisions that my building security guy in building 5 makes. However, I am responsible for what the channel in building 5 does because he is up under my authority. So if he does things that I don't like, that's on me to correct that. That's on me to address it. If I have somebody in a position who is not prepared for that position, who is not equipped to handle that position, then that's on me, even more so than the individual in the position, right? Because I have effectively set them up to fail by giving them a task without making sure that they're aware of my direction, right? And in a prison gang context, like my direction is not just of my own making, but nonetheless, if it's my yard, it's my direction. And so this dude, Poetic Flaco, who it seems is a black dude, although I'm not 100% clear, Adam 22 is responsible for him. You're responsible for his mistakes. You get the benefit of his successes, right? If he does a good job at what he's tasked to do, and I don't know fully what that is, right? Then your platform reaps the benefits. So if he doesn't do a good job, and if he messes up, that is also on you, right? You can't have one without the other. And it seemed that Adam 22 didn't address that, for one. And apparently the guy's new or the guy's weird. AD was saying stuff about him that makes me question how this dude Flaco even has this job, right? If he's that problematic, if he's that much of a challenge, if he's that out of tune, why does he work there? Because nobody's entitled to have a position within any organization. You have to earn that, and you have to demonstrate your value to the organization. But then Adam himself, when he gets on FaceTime later, which I would imagine that, granted, he's at another environment, he's at another function. But if you can answer a FaceTime call, I would guess that with the team that they have, right? And I don't know how big the staff is, but they have a staff, which says something in itself, that he would have been able to have been watching this as the interview happened, right? Like somebody else could have had him on FaceTime. He could have tapped into a camera, like something I'm sure could have been done with technology these days. And if I'm him and I can't make it, I want to see as much of what is happening in this conversation as possible. And the fact that he just answered a FaceTime at the end, right, almost an hour later, suggests to me that maybe he could have been watching more and that he wasn't. But nonetheless, I don't know the specifics, right? But when he answers, he's like, look, man, I'll grant you the ER. right? I'll grant you that. But the Black Coon, I'm not gonna grant you that, right? Like, you can't be out here saying this stuff and then turn around and say that stuff. This is newsworthy. This is newsworthy. And it get that gatekeeper thing. You found it newsworthy, but should it have been newsworthy? Because clearly it was misrepresented. So you took a clip, right? Nobody else, nobody posting on social media, whatever. Like, it's your platform. So you're responsible, right? It's your yard. You allowed for a clip that misrepresented facts, that misrepresented something that actually happened, right? This is not an opinion. This is not, well, this is my view. What is your view? It's, yes, he said these words, but it was misrepresented, the context that he said the words in, not misunderstood, misrepresented, which is the difference, right? It was misrepresented what Gil said. And then you decided that it was newsworthy. You decided that that is something that your 4 million plus followers need to see. That's on you. You can't just blame it on, well, hey, I kind of think that this was worth it, or this was newsworthy, therefore I'm not accountable for what I'm presenting. Media companies these days and news companies these days are highly profitable organizations. That's why we have 24-hour news channels, because there's money in having news channels. These news channels dictate what information the consumers get, right? So I know the murder rate in Chicago, despite the fact that I'm in Northern California, because my local news station in Northern California, for some asinine reason, tells me who got shot in Chicago, right? And I know the reason, and it is very much racism and classism, right? 100%. But so they decide, right? There's 20 events happening in the area. I hear about 3 of them when I watch the news, because the news has decided that those 3 events are newsworthy. That doesn't mean they're the only events. So Adam 22 has to take some responsibility for what he has decided is newsworthy, and should have taken it down as soon as it was made clear that it was misrepresented. Again, not misunderstood, misrepresented. And he didn't. And then he went on to lecture in a patronizing way. I took offense when he started talking to Bozo and American Cholo, right? And, well, you guys need to know, man, that this is how this works, and you should be responsible, and you should this. Like, hold on, bro, stop, just stop. It's not your place to lecture somebody. Nobody asked you for your advice in this situation, right? Nobody asked you for a public relations training. Nobody asked you for your opinion. You're being told, and I love the fact that Bozo was clear in, this is not necessarily a request, homie, this is a demand. You're being told that what you allowed to happen was foul. And by any objective standard, it was foul. That is not the time for you to turn around and be like, well, I got some professional advice for you. No, that's not how it works. Is No Jumper a bigger platform than American Cholos? Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, did Gil, I'm sure, learn some lessons in this? It would seem so, right? But Adam 22 is not the end all be all of what is appropriate. It is not for him to lecture others on how things are supposed to work. In particular, when he's being called out for something not working well in his platform. And it worked well for views. It worked well for attention. Absolutely. It had me watch a whole fucking hour on No Jumper, which I've never done before in my life. So I guess on that level it worked. But as was expressed by AD, and as was expressed by Duno, and as was expressed by American Cholo, and as was expressed by Bozo, that is not, there are bigger consequences to this conversation. And I've said this before on my platform in various videos. I've talked about how what is said online can translate to the streets, right? I got a youngster that was murdered behind a Facebook argument. I'll link to the video, right? Um, Rappers are killed over stuff that they say all the time. Uh, and so there are consequences. There are real life consequences to this stuff. And it seems that Adam 22 is the least aware of that. And yet he wants to be the high and mighty one. He wants to be the authoritative voice, right? It is my way or it's no way. Well, you can't do that in particular with other platforms. You don't have a say over how American Cholo's platform operates or over what he says. And the fact that you may not like how he has communicated before does not give you the right to justify misrepresenting what he has said and allowing it to continue and gather steam, to frame him in a light that, best as I can tell, is not necessarily accurate. So these are my thoughts. These are my views. Again, I don't know Gil. I don't know American Cholo. I don't know any of these cats. Never talked to him. Is American Cholo a racist? Fuck if I know. I don't know. I don't think so. I haven't seen or heard anything that suggests to me that he is. I have seen and heard some things that suggest to me that he's not. So I give him the benefit of the doubt. I think the responsible, mature thing to do is give somebody the benefit of the doubt until they demonstrate conclusively, they demonstrate absolutely otherwise. And then you wash your hands of it, right? I've done the same thing with people. And so, anyways, I hesitated to say anything. I stayed out of this arena for a long time, but watching that interview and kind of learning a little bit more of what's going on and consuming some of the content around it, I figured, hey, these are my thoughts, right? So help others move in excellence. That's what homies do. Help yourself at the same time because you're worth it, and help your community because they need you. You guys take care. There's a bunch of other content that covers a range of topics, and we'll catch up next time.